Hello, Joe. How you going, man?
Good, man. How you doing, bro?
Doing great, thank you. You back from your holiday?
Oh yeah, back at the house, man.
Where is home?
Tampa, Florida.
Ah, God's
Yep.
country.
Yeah, you know it, buddy.
I've
One
never
of the
visited Florida, actually.
one of
Always,
the best places to be during that freaking coup that was pulled over the entire world during 2020.
yes, I heard that you guys managed to maintain a lot of sort of freedom of movement and that kind of stuff, and your local authorities didn't clamp down too hard.
Not at all, dude.
It's great. Where were you last week? You were on vacation somewhere in the Caribbean?
No, that was 2 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago I was in Barbados,
Oh, lovely.
and then 2 weeks ago I was just outside of Augusta, Georgia, for a family get together, family reunion for the Independence Day.
Nice. I love it. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, and then we're leaving in 2 weeks to go to Montana to visit Big Sky and Yellowstone and do some hiking and whitewater rafting and fly fishing and get into the mountains and the country out there. So we're excited.
Is that going to be a family thing with your wife and the kids?
Yep. Yeah.
Amazing. Are
Yeah.
you a camper? Like, do you like to go out in the woods a
No,
lot?
shit like that. No.
Okay.
I'm too bougie for that shit, but I do like hiking. I do like outdoors. Listen, I'm not against the camping and all that stuff, but when you're with, your pregnant wife and you're with your son, and I surprised my mom and got her a ticket to come out for, 3 days with us. So we're not doing all that. It's not like some hunting trip. You know what I mean?
Okay, good. No, just because you said like rafting and fly fishing, I was kind of thinking you were going
Yeah.
to be out in the woods, but you're going to have a roof over your head as well for that period of
Oh
time.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, we're staying in Big Sky, which is a ski town. So there's tons of like nice condos and townhouses and stuff there. So yeah, it's nice.
Awesome. And I don't, yeah, you and me have never spoke before. This is our first time talking to one another. So
Correct. Yep.
thank you for coming for the interview. Um, you work with Dan Henry's company, is that correct?
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So I'm his COO, so I'm his number two and direct integrator. And so yeah, what I do is run the day-to-day operations of the entire business. That's leading the team. Uh, that is accounting, finance, HR, working with all the bookkeepers, as well as most importantly, right, taking the ideas and visions and downloads from Dan and being the bridge from vision to execution and bringing all of that to life with the resources that we have in order to get things launched and going.
Okay.
As you know, like in our world, right, we're always launching offers and stuff like that. So Dan will give me a loom or a video or an audio download if what he wants done, and then I'm the one that facilitates, project manages, and brings it all to life.
I'm guessing with the type of personality Dan has, there's a lot of fresh ideas coming thick and fast, right?
Yeah, visionaries are never short on ideas, that's for sure.
What size is the team that you lead nowadays?
Yeah, so this is a little bit something new for me. Over the years, I've traditionally kind of led mid-sized teams, 60 to 80 people, upwards of 100 to 130. With Dan's team here, we're under 10.
Okay. That's very lean, man. I am surprised because he's got a big presence. So
Yeah, Dan, and I do a lot.
amazing. And you yourself, do you come from the world of marketing or running those bigger teams? You come from a different background?
Yes, I did come from a bigger background or a different background. I'm sorry. So 4 years ago, February, I was laid off from my corporate job in the restaurant business. So I spent about close to 15 years in that industry, from single unit operations, $3 and $4 million businesses with teams of 60 to 80, up to head of productivity for a $600 million organization that had 189 restaurants in it. So working with the president, vice president of operations to roll out new initiatives, SOPs, and any kind of changes with, supply chain training, all that stuff in order to essentially help make the company more money, right? Or as we
Mhm.
call it, adjusted operating margins. And then was part of a layoff, a 70-person layoff from that corporate office, which was not connected with COVID, by the way, which was interesting timing because 3-4 weeks later we were in a lockdown and restaurants were closed and stuff. So it would just everything kind of fell in the direction of it helped me out, right? Because then it's like they laid us off with severance packages rather than just, hey, you got to go because it's COVID, right? So
Okay.
um and I came from a crazy background of my own life, so someone giving me money to not work for them anymore was an absolute freaking new experience for me with a severance package. You know what I mean? You're like, wait, what? So that was interesting. But I had already kind of started in my own entrepreneurial journey on the side with a coaching business, becoming a trained ontological coach, and leadership and all of that stuff, and was kind of working in this men's movement I had been working on. So I really fell in love with copywriting because my mother is a secondary English major, so the spoken word and reading and all that stuff I was super interested in. So kind of being able to see the whole marketing thing was really cool. So, like, I'm super passionate about marketing and advertising and copywriting, um, but it's not my gifts, you know. My gifts are leadership, productivity, operational execution, um, conflict resolution, conversations, stuff like that, right? So, um, what I found is, though, is there is a large gap in our industry, John, of integrators, of ops people. Like, it's like the Wild West, man.
There's
Of
too
like,
much chaos and not enough order.
yeah, yeah. So, those that are at the level where they need, an integrator of my caliber, it's just been really, it's worked, right? So I get to be in something that I love doing in terms of marketing and copywriting, and I get to, write and edit and all that stuff. And I understand, like, I obsess over the principles, from Halbert and Schwartz and and Ogilvy and all these other guys in terms of copywriting, but and the psychology of it. But, like, I'll never be as great as you or Matt or our buddy, or Dan, or these, Kevin Rogers, these other, like, people that were like, copywriting is just like what you're gifted at too, and you also work hard at it, right? So
Well, it's funny you should say that because I've kind of had this a similar realization myself this year. Like I was like, okay, I'm at a level of competence, but then the people I know who are truly great, like they're obsessed,
yeah,
like it keeps them awake at night thinking about copy and reading old copy and like, digging around for hidden treasures and stuff. And as much as I really love the industry and love the creative stuff and how it took me out of another industry where I was less satisfied into one where I've got a lot more lifestyle freedom. I knew this year and I made that move where I decided I'm not going to actually primarily make copy the thing I do because I don't aspire to that level of obsessive greatness that the best people I've ever met do. So it's interesting. You say the same thing. You can love it, appreciate it, want to work in
yeah,
it and around it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that core thing you do. And like you too, I feel like my best skills are kind of in some other areas.
yeah. The other realization for me within that, John, and maybe this will resonate with you as well, is that um like, I won't ever be able to make as much money copywriting as I do being an integrator and a COO,
Hmm.
right? Because there's like if you're naturally gifted at something and everyone else looks at you like, dude, how is this so easy for you? But it's always like incredibly difficult for them. Well, most of the time, like you're going to be highly valued. And typically something that's like highly valued is highly paid. Not always, but in this case, copywriting and COO is both highly valued and highly paid. It just the biggest thing for me was is that I'll always be able to earn more and elevate to a higher level as a COO than I ever would be able to as a copywriter because of what my gifts are. Right?
Hmm.
It's like like I if I wanted to be an NBA player, well, maybe like I was highly gifted at basketball, and I worked my ass off. I'm never going to be good as Kevin Durant because he's 6'7" and he's equally like he just has the so like you have to get very real about with like how you yourself were created and what it is that you and accepting that, right? Now, like again, once you realize what those gifts are, and maybe you're not even passionate about it, bro. I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, I'm super passionate about conflict resolution conversations. No one really is on the planet, right? Like there is a select few, but I'm really, really good at them, and I found that out in the restaurant because that's your whole job is you're a firefighter and you're talking to somebody that didn't like their food and you ruined their night even though they ate all their food and now it's just like it's like
And they even ordered a second plate, but you still
yeah,
screwed up their life, right?
yeah. And so but like the thing is that just because you're not you become passionate about things because you're good at it and other people validate that you're good at it and they like having you around because you're good at it and they want to know about how you became good at it and they're interested in you and it just so happens that conflict resolution is a highly paid skill and
Hmm.
like people make millions of dollars because they're great at it, so it's like all of those things surrounding that kind of create a passion over years and years and years of doing it because of everything else that comes along with it, right?
Yes.
Whereas with like copywriting, I'm like, I can just pick up a book from my wall right now and start reading it and I'm excited about it. They're two different things, right?
It's like on the business building side, it's almost like there's a lot of these skills that individually may seem to be somewhat mundane, but when they what they add up to is the ability to lead teams and grow businesses and have lots of really exciting experiences you couldn't otherwise have with any one of those things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And especially like for agency owners, I mean, conflict resolution conversations with clients is a premier skill that you need to learn how to do because agency clients expectations are on another planet typically from reality.
Yeah. Well, I joke about this. I'm like, marketers talk about their work like it's magic, and then they wonder why the clients expect miracles. It's totally
Oh yeah.
crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and the other thing I realized too, man, is that like the stuff I do is not fun and not sexy.
Hmm.
Like either if you don't like being in the mud, man, like I love the mud. Like I love like being in that in the part of your business where it's like you're getting woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning with a technical call and the traffic's messed up going to your freaking webinar and you got to figure it out and you're like ready to jump off of a bridge.
Hmm.
Like people hate that shit. And I love that shit. Right.
Creative people, especially, right? It creates
Oh,
massive anxiety for them.
yeah. And it just robs them of all their energy, like you said. Me, like, I want to get in there. I want to figure it out. I want to fix it. I want to unblock it and start getting it going again. And then I want to sit down and I want to talk about what happened and figure out and not let it ever happen again and, create a system from it or whatever. and get things running smooth. And people hate that, bro.
What was your entry point into this industry after getting out of what you were in previously in the restaurant industry? I mean, how did you like get into the place you are now? What was the series of events to that?
Yeah. So by way of masterminds and education myself.
Awesome.
So had a coaching business, a men's movement that I was leading myself. I did reasonably okay, had some 10 and 20K months, ended up having to close that business in 2021. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, since then, and then once that happened, then I transitioned into a number two role as an integrator for somebody that I had been in their programs that I was buddies with. Bought all their offers, did all their trainings, was one of the first people in their mastermind. You guys might know Rudy Moore. Um,
Yes.
yeah, so Man in Red, like him and I hit it off, and we scaled that more capital business as well as his ROI Machines agency and a bunch of other partner businesses we had in a year. Pretty remarkable, a lot of the stuff that we did, and kind of was showed the power of that visionary integrator role. So that's kind of how I got into the number two kind of role. Um, and so since then, uh, I worked a little bit with Scott Olford for
Yes.
a year, all last year, and then just came on with Dan with when that project that Scott had going on, the Wisdom Group, big media conglomerate he had going on. That kind of he's scaling that back down and working on some other things, and so then he's not really in the need for me, somebody that's driving and pushing it. So transitioned and moved over with Dan. So and I had met Dan at other masterminds, and he came and spoke at a mastermind that I was emceeing, and him and I kind of hit it off like the first time we met as well. Hung out a couple of times and really connected. He's from Florida as well, like close to where I live now, and so we kind of understand being degenerates from Florida together, like, but working really hard on ourselves to be better, but at the same time, like living and growing, and so that's kind of how I've gone in that direction. So I've kind of carved out a path for myself, John, of being a direct integrator for kind of these internet marketing guru types, these visionary types, because for me, it's very intentional where I get to use and live in my gifts, meaning I get to be in the mud of business. I get to lead people because leadership is my zone of genius. And I get to do all of the day to day of running a business, because one of the things running restaurants is I really learned how to run and scale businesses, like from its core true business principles, forecasting, budgeting, all the stuff that um, no one in our industry ever even like cares about. They're just like, make
Even
money,
thinks about, let's
put
just get
out
some money.
offers.
Let's get some
Yeah,
money.
yeah. So but then I get to be, so I'm living in my gifts and I'm doing that and I'm really great at it and I'm super effective and highly paid. But then I also get to be around what I'm passionate about, and that's marketing and advertising. And, I edit tons of copy. I've, hired and trained tons of copywriters, so I get to be essentially in the two domains that I really enjoy most. That's what I'm great at and what I love.
Awesome. You talked about agency clients. So does your business nowadays have an agency element to it still?
No, no. So when I was with Rudy, we had a seven-figure full done for you boutique uh kind of funnels and ads agency called
Hmm.
ROI Machines.
Yes.
And so I oversaw operations of that uh, for like close to 18 months with another guy named Mike who was running ops with me. Awesome guy.
And with in Dan's company now, am I right that that's like primarily Dan's own offers and webinars
Yeah,
and things like that? Is that correct?
correct.
Yeah, because he's a superb pitch man. Like he's really fantastic. That's his own genius, is getting in front of a camera and making a presentation.
Yeah. So what I would say, like what I've learned, maybe just like a peek behind the curtain for your audience that might enjoy this, is being with Rudy, Scott, and now Dan. Rudy is brilliant at systems, the numbers, and cold traffic scaling. Like he is the ads guy, big time. I know he probably hates me saying that, but like he is brilliant at cold traffic scaling. Like it was amazing to be watch that genius. And then Scott, he like has the magic pen, bro. Like I was on a call one day with Scott and he's like, just edit this as I write it. And he just types out a sales letter like he's typing normal and I'm editing it behind him. And he basically wrote a sales letter in like 18 minutes, bro, just typing it out. It just like flows out of him. So his was really the just conveying the written word and getting it out there. And then Dan, I always tell the story when we were hanging out, me, him, and Shakir. I don't know if you guys know Shaq from funnels.com, but
I've heard of him, yes.
we were hanging out and Shaq's like, hey man, like come on, man, like pitch pitch my offer for us real quick. Like, come on, help me out. He's like, and then and Dan's like, all right, put your phone down. He hits record. Dan just rattles off this freaking 7-minute VSL, John. No ums, no ahs, no paw, no like nothing. Just smashes it. Like everything from beginning to end of what you would need like for a killer VSL, he just off the dome like this. And I'm just like, me and Shaq look at each other like, what the hell is going on, man? I'm like, dude, I don't even need funnels right now, and I want to give you money. It's like, so it's just so these guys have these specific talents that are conducive to allowing them to unlock, revenue streams because what they're gifted at produces income, right? It generates sales and so yeah, Dan, and we have an offer right now where uh he will help you write your pitch for your sales presentation. Typically we do virtual challenges or webinars, and he will help you write the entire thing. And then if you want him to repitch, we can do that as well. And that's been working fantastic, man, because then if you already have the audience and you already have the traffic and you're just kind of are getting blocked with the inability to find that key to really land with that audience to generate the revenue that you can get, but you just don't have the right words to say. Well, Dan can help you with that as well as do it for you. And then you guys, and it's a shared success. It's like there's an upfront fee. Typically do a 100K upfront fee plus a percentage of varies on whatever the sales are from the challenge, right? And it's like, well, what's the incentivization then for Dan to go all in on this to help you? So now it's a win-win, and we found that it's been incredibly lucrative for both parties, right? So yeah, that's been working really well for us. And I know Dan, we were just at Magnetic Marketing Conference, Super Conference,
Hmm.
back in May, and Dan did the repitch for Russell Brunson there, and sold almost as much on the repitch as Russell sold on the day before. So it's just when you know what to say, you know what words to say, right? So for me, it's, well, I know what to say in a conflict resolution conversation to handle it effectively and in a healthy way to de-escalate the situation. When I have a connection conversation with a staff member, that's what I call carefrontation, in order to deliver them feedback so that they can get better at their job, right? Well, I know what words to say. for Dan, when he's on stage or he's in a sales presentation, he knows what to say to make sure that people take out their wallets and give them money in order to buy the things that ultimately, are going to help them scale their business or get the results that they want. But there's this emotional block because it's always tied to their pocketbook.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. And it's really interesting the different ways that people can actually get to a very successful place. Like you talked about your set of skills, and then you talked about those three other people, about Rudy Maher and his expertise on advertising and cold traffic, and he's built his reputation from that skill, right? People know him as like the ads guy, and also the guy in red. Like he's very flamboyant personality.
Yeah.
Scott Alford, and you talked about him as the writing skills, and he's built up his business, I believe, around newsletters and growing newsletters for people. Is that right?
Yeah, this current business, yes. The other ones have been, coaching and scaling businesses, and he's been equally successful in helping a lot of entrepreneurs get results in their online businesses.
Yeah, and then you just mentioned about Dan as well and his skill of presentation. And I've seen him speak so many times, and he's just watchable. Like even if you have no interest, I've watched a bunch of his stuff. I've no interest maybe in buying what he's got to sell, but I'm like, I just want to watch this guy because I like the way he talks. I like the way he explains things. I love how smoothly he can move from one topic to another, or he can take something complicated and explain it in a very simple way that's extremely compelling.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a gift. I mean, that's just a show of a highly intelligent person. When they can digest advanced concepts that way and then deliver them and transmit them to other people for them to be able to hear it and understand it, that's it takes a highly intelligent person to be able to do that.
Am I right that you guys have had a lot more focus on YouTube content of late?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that strategy in that direction and why you've gone that way?
Sure, sure. One of the things that I will say about Dan that I hold in high admiration for him is that, he's not somebody that's just selling everybody on a bunch of stuff. He also is somebody that invests in himself like he asks others to invest in. And so he was trying desperately for a long time to get this YouTube thing working. And I'm not even saying that we're at like this somewhat godly level yet. We're just not, right? But, it's one of the hardest things, and he would say this as well, one of the hardest things he's had to do in his business, in the online business, right? So we hired a YouTuber who's a content creator. We spent over 60K already with the guy, of just beating us to death with the concepts of YouTube videos and principles regarding structure and thumbnails and all of the different intricacies of the whole YouTube game. Okay. And we've taken all of that feedback and we're both in agreement that we're quick implementers. It's like, just tell us what to do so we can freaking do it, man. Like
Hmm.
we're ready. We'll do the work. And that's what we've been doing. So the evolution over time um, has been pretty cool to watch. And it's a lot of work, bro. Anybody that is making long form content, it's a lot of work to ideate, to script, to film, to edit, and then get it launched. I mean, it again, we can systematize everything and we have, but it still takes a lot of time, man. Uh, so again, the videos that you're going to start seeing us come out now are we're still going to continue doing the business roasts, which I know
Love
everybody
those. They're so
loves them.
good.
Yeah.
It's a great
And
format.
I think the reason why people like that so much is because, like you said earlier, it's like, everyone wants this magic shit and they want to tell this magic stuff. And Dan's like, yo, what are you doing? Like, stop doing this. This is why you're not making money,
Yeah.
or hey, So let me get this straight. You were making money and then you stopped doing that to go do this. And then you wonder why, it's like these aha moments, but I think deep down we all really want somebody to be like that with
Of
us.
course, yeah.
A lot of times we're just like afraid of that feedback, because it's our little baby we're trying to create. And we got to, there's so much emotions involved. And then we're going to be having some of the more visual videos where Dan is going to be talking about his experiences, certain topics, and hopefully we start getting into some current events and things of that nature to where we're tapping into kind of his take and stuff coming from his brain on the relatable things that he notices from his perspective, right? Which I think, like you said, anybody that's entertaining like Dan, well, let me hear your perspective on what everyone else is saying, because the way that you transmit it's wildly different than everyone else. It's like, so we're excited about that, and you'll start seeing us getting on a good rhythm here coming soon.
With YouTube, just kind of like on the sort of very broad level, it seems like a lot of quite influential people who are in direct response have traditionally worked with a lot of paid traffic are making a big push on YouTube these days. Can you kind of explain some of the thought process behind why that's it's now considered such a valuable platform for people who maybe weren't as active there before?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say is the reason why paid traffic is so attractive to the marketing type is because of instant gratification. It's like I can turn this on and ideate pretty quickly with and get results very rapidly. So it really feeds the mentality that a lot of visionaries in our industry have with scratching an itch right away and getting things right now. It's like opening up my Christmas presents in July. It's like I get them now. I don't, I'm writing the letter to Santa in July and I don't have to wait till December. I'm getting it now. Um, but when you turn the ads off, the money turns off. you know when you post something on YouTube, it's there forever. And there's plenty of us that go down YouTube holes, and whenever you discover someone's channel and you're new to their stuff, well, most of the time, guess what, you're watching a lot of their videos. And for those people that have been doing this for a long time, I mean, you're watching 3, 4, 6, 7-year-old videos, right? You can't do that with paid ads. So then what happens is that you're getting all of this velocity from all of the content that you put out over a long period of time, that once something pops and once something begins to take off, well, now you have this whole infusion of all of these other views on all of your other content and videos that's leading everywhere, and you're getting all of that information, right? And then the cool thing is that from a marketing perspective, what we've seen, and I'm sure you've heard this before, the level of quality and intention around those buyers is much, much higher, right? Than click something in my news feed and I go into your funnel. It's like, well, all right, I've watched 4 of your videos now, and now I'm clicking on this link. That's a much different level of intent, as well as a different level of indoctrination around my messaging and who I am. And it's a different level of trust. So then the quality of those people coming off of those calls is very different, and it lessens the friction within the sales cycle.
Yeah, it's all very, very valuable insights there. With YouTube, especially, it's interesting that marketers are moving in that direction, because a lot of the influential names on YouTube are great with audience building, great with creating the content, but a lot of them maybe not so good with monetization and turning it into a sustainable business. It seems a lot of them for many years have just been supported by things like ad revenue, maybe a little bit of merch. Whereas with you guys coming in with your background, you can say, okay, if we can actually create this machine that generates this high quality traffic, there's any number of ways we can turn that into business.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is too, is that once you get into a certain level, like you said, with the monetization, well, then it's self-liquidating through views. So then all of that money, like, we're tracking all that, like everything that we've invested and stuff on that, on our YouTube strategies and coaching, we'll end up making all that money back over time just from monetization strictly of the videos being viewed online, right? And the ad revenue that comes along with, that stuff being plugged in there. And that's the crazy thing about it, like, what's that guy's name? Casey Neistat,
Yes.
and his story where he's talking about how, like, he just started posting on YouTube, and then like he turned on monetization, and then like a couple months later he sees that he got something in his account for like 8 grand. He's like, what is this? And then the next month it was like 20 grand. And then the next month it was like 80. And then next thing you know, he's making like 6 figures a month just from posting videos on YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, that guy's a great creative artist, but I
Yeah.
think he was also a pioneer. Like he was,
Oh, sure, sure. I get that,
but he absolutely fueled a lot of people's dreams and realized, hey, there's something real here. Like there's a real, there's a lot of stuff that can be done on this platform. He's a really cool guy, and I've actually before I early days when I kind of first got interested in marketing, I was watching his stuff back in 2013, 2014, and really loving it. For you, with your background of like coming out like working in corporate businesses and then working in the restaurant industry, which is, those are industries where they're very traditional industries from the perspective of you're building teams, they're very people intensive. You have to be really tight on your organization, on your finances to make those businesses grow. What do you see as and then you come into the marketing industry where things are super chaotic. Like
Oh yeah.
what do you see as like from your perspective as the major difference between the two, and what things have you brought from your past career to actually help your marketing business, the marketing companies you work with to be better?
Yeah, I love this question. I also love answering this question. I believe from my experience that the magic to a successful business is somewhere in the middle of both, right? Because in corporate, the biggest roadblock is that it's like you're driving a cruise ship. It takes 8 miles to turn. You know, if I wanted to launch an initiative, I had to get permission from 4 departments. Okay, well, I got the permissions. Then I need to, once I get that, then I need to schedule a meeting with all the people that I want to have involved to see if they want to be a part of it. Well, then I need to get that. And then so by the time I would be able to get something actually working and up and going, it would take 3 to 6 months, bro, which in our business is absolutely bananas. You can't even imagine that, right? So then for us in the small business space, and this isn't just internet marketing space, but the small business space in general. I know we like to think about ourselves all special and everything, but we're in the small business space,
Mm-hmm.
typically specifically online small business space, is we're a speedboat. So like I can get something today, I can launch it today. I can launch it tomorrow, you know, and I have that speed and agility and all that stuff. But like we always say, we're building the airplane while we fly it. Look at me. And it's like, you're like, you're like a martyr of, flight or something. It's like, okay, well, let's try and maybe plan something. Maybe we can try that first, right? So what I would say is that if I could take both of those, where the corporate world does a great job of training, onboarding, onboarding new hires. So, like, one of the things, John, and you'll appreciate this, is that one of the reasons why copywriters have liked working with me over the years is because I show up to a call with them. I give them a proper onboarding into the business. I give them everything they need. I give them attention, and I'm available for them to make sure that they can do the best job possible so that they can make me as much money as possible. What typical business owners do that don't come from a background that know and understand, like I do, that onboarding and training has a direct correlation to my level of retention and performance from the get-go. They just send the information to the copywriter and they're like, send me what you got in 6 weeks or you don't get paid, or whatever, so it's like, all right, so I take the onboarding, the training, the systems, the SOPs, the processes, the structure, the organization. Now I'm building a foundation to take all of that energy, all of those ideas, all of that agility of that small business, and I'm able now to focus it like a laser with doing all that other stuff. And then, of course, it's about finding the balance between planning and preparation and agility and speed, right? Because that's the biggest advantage that we have in the small business space, is we can choose whatever software we want to use. We can make a decision, right? So then when you think about it from a team perspective, well, that's one of the biggest advantages that we have for hiring. What it's like, hey, what if I told you that, coming into this role, you were going to make decisions that were going to directly impact the business and the clients? Is that something that's attractive to you? Well, any employee that's worth a shit, that's all they want. Because in corporate, they know what they do doesn't really matter, and they're just a number, and they can get clipped anytime. But they have safety, they have security. Small business space, it's like, do we have enough money to pay the employees this month? It's like, so, again, like, it's all about just kind of finding your way. And I like to take the best and leave the rest. Um, but I am glad that I did have that background to be able to come into this world and know and understand the good, the bad, and the ugly kind of both, to be able to really integrate the things that I know will be most impactful, and I don't have to be married to them.
But got time for two more questions?
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. So one thing is that the type of people who you've been working with, and we talked with, are very, very different from you, and very different skill sets. And that type of highly creative person who is like a visionary leader tend to thrive in chaos. But what is it have you found with these people that like triggers in them that I actually can't do things this way anymore? I need to find somebody who can help me put some, be more organized and actually create a proper structure for my business.
The number one reason why they would ever allow that to happen is because of trust. The only reason why it works so well with Dan and I
Mm-hmm.
is because the all of the admiration that I was spewing out about that I have for him on what his gifts are, on this podcast with you, he has an equal amount of admiration for all the gifts that I have. And so and he's very vocal about that, and I appreciate that. But what that does then is we're at that level with somebody. It's like this level of mastery, this level of excellence and standards, just at different things. You know, um, you can you automatically, there's a certain kind of unspoken agreement there, but then the only way that it ultimately works is through trust. And that only happens through the cultivation of a healthy relationship, man to man, woman to woman, whatever it is. And that everything in our business that we do, the level at which that will ever go to the level that we want it to, is created in the depth of connection that we have person to person. And that's it. The stronger that the trust is, the stronger that the connection is, the harder friction we can go against each other. And what happens is it's like this, boom, and then it's an explosion up. Then you're at the next level, boom, and it's an explosion up. And all you're doing is creating this friction with one another that's painful and hard and intentional and pushback here, this, that. And then what that does is it elevates everyone around you.
I love it. That's such a great perspective. It's different to what you normally expect, because I think people expect that when a working relationship is going to be good, that it's going to be smooth and everything's perfect. But in fact, it can't be. If it's too smooth and perfect, you don't have that creative tension that actually drives things forward, right?
That's correct. I tell people that the measurement and the effectiveness of the visionary and integrator is determined by the manner in which they're able to have healthy conflict or not take things personal and not judge one another. You know, dude, I mean, like you were laughing about the business roasts, and these are complete strangers. So imagine what our conversations are like.
A lot of roasting going on.
Yeah, most people would not want to be in those conversations with us. If people are around, it is very uncomfortable. But it's like we both want the same thing. We both are trying to get there. And we both are going the same way. I think the thing that's most important to remember is that the reason why that can happen is because of the trust. It's like at the end of the day, the only reason why Dan is freaking hammering me for this is because, I believe in his mind and in his heart, he's doing what's best for us to get the job done. And conversely, when I'm like, the same thing with him, where I'm just like, dude, shut up, bro. What are you talking about right now? Why are you even bringing this up? What are you doing? And then other times he's like, dude, if I have to look at this thing one more time, I'm literally going to punch you in the face. Get this done, whatever. Right. And so when you're able to not take things personal and you can have healthy conflict and it's like dancing, it can be wildly successful, bro. Wildly successful.
So, final question. And this is one for business owners who are maybe, a little bit early on, but their business is growing. What are the symptoms that lets a business owner know that actually I've reached the stage where I need to bring an integrator into the business to help to keep growing?
The number one thing is you can afford them.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I tell every single person. Number two, don't think that you can't afford them.
Mm-hmm.
Believe that you don't need somebody that's at my level. You don't need an executive level person. You need an operations manager. You need an operations admin, and you can get those people relatively at good value that can highly impact your business. Okay. The number one indicator, just kind of holistically within your business, is like you're stuck. Meaning, like, you can't, you have so many things going on in your business and you're stuck at this revenue, and you can't continue growing. It's the same thing for us intrinsically. It's like, I'm stuck at this level in this area of my life. Well, I need to invest, right? And kind of pull back the arrow in order to fire, which means I'm going to get uncomfortable. I'm going to go into a little bit of debt, for lack of a better word, in this area so that I can kind of move forward, right? Because if you look at the mastery curve in George Leonard's book, Mastery, the mastery curve, you go up, you peak, and then you digress, and then you plateau. And then you go up, you peak, you digress, and then you plateau, right? So people start freaking out when they're digressing or they're in plateaus, but that's just naturally how the mind works, how life works, and how the universe works. These are principles, success principles, right? So it's the same. If I'm just always plateaued, well, then I need to make some sort of change, right? And then what that means is then, okay, I can make that list. And I do this for a lot of business owners in our trainings of Get Clients Universities. On my ops trainings I do once a month, this happens a lot. Hey, when should I get a VA? Hey, when should I get an ops person? Well, bro, if you're blocked, you need somebody to take all this stuff off you, you know? Dan loves his life right now because he just gets to do marketing and sales and content creation and all those things. And he doesn't have to do any of the stuff that he's not good at and he doesn't like doing, and it weighs down on his energy, you know? So if you're in that spot, like, you have to be self-aware enough, first of all, John, to even realize that that's what's happening, which is hard because you're in it. Number two, like, even if it's part-time help at first, get somebody to take all these freaking things off your plate. You know what I mean? And then lastly, I'll finish with this. I created this thing called the time value matrix. And it's basically like a combination of the Eisenhower productivity matrix, um, a combination with that, with the Pareto principle. And so what it does is it helps you kind of prioritize based off of things that are time and value, right? I get it, urgent, important, and all that stuff. Like, it's very similar, but in turn, how my brain works is like, okay, how much time does this take me, high or low, and then how valuable it is to me in my life and in my business, right? Like that's how I measure my behavior. So I'm like, okay, most people have a prioritization problem. They don't have a workload problem. They don't have anything other than they have not gotten their priorities straight, and they care about the stuff that doesn't matter, or they don't know what to do, or they have whatever, right? So by going through that kind of exercise, then you can understand exactly what things you need to offload, right? Because you might be an integrator and you might be highly talented. Like my wife, for instance, I have a business with my wife online. It's online Pilates. She's a visionary, but she's not a marketer and she's not a salesperson. So, like, with me running ops, like, we're not integrating tons of marketing and sales stuff. We're integrating tons and tons of fulfillment stuff. And we need to outsource the marketing. We need to outsource the sales eventually, because so it's, again, that self-awareness is critical.
Awesome. Joe, thank you so much for your time tonight, for coming and sharing with me. Really appreciate it. This was a great conversation. If people want to find you, what should I put in the show notes?
Yeah, they can go to our website, getclients.com. If they want to directly interact with me, Joseph DiRoma on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, all Joseph DiRoma.
Thank you. Really appreciate you being here tonight.
Thanks, man.